Hello! Welcome back to my channel. My name is Kayla and I like to talk about books. So let's talk about some books. Today I want to talk about Stephen King, specifically some books by Stephen King that I have not read but I really want to read. So this is probably like my top list of Stephen King books that, as I said, I have not yet read, but I really want to. These are probably books that I will make it through at some point next year, hopefully. We'll see kind of how things go, but if you're interested in knowing some of the books that I really want to read, then go ahead and keep watching and let's just get started with it. So the first Stephen King book that I have not read but really want to read is Cujo, and this is obviously like a classic, and I remember him talking about it in the book, I think On Writing. I think that was the book he talked about it in, and he said that basically when his drinking was really bad is when he wrote Cujo, and he actually like doesn't even remember writing it, which is kind of sad, but it's just definitely a really classic book. I actually have seen the movie, so I'm very familiar with like the plot and everything like that, and I think it's such a good idea for a horror book, and just such like a really interesting, unique idea. It really plays off of like our relationship with dogs, and I'm just very much interested in reading that book. And yeah, I think that's probably the next Stephen King book I would actually read, to be honest. So definitely top of my to be read Stephen King list. The second Stephen King book that I really want to read but haven't yet gotten around to is also another kind of classic Stephen King book, and that is Pet Sematary. Now, before I even talk about this, please do not leave any spoilers below, because I'm going in completely into the unknown. I have not seen the movie Pet Sematary. I don't really know that much about the plot, except that there's, I think, like a doctor and something about maybe bringing the dead back to life. I honestly don't really know though, so please don't spoil it for me below, but I'm definitely going to get around to reading that really soon, because as I said, it's just a classic by him, and I can't believe I haven't read it yet, but I'm actually really excited for the day that I do. Let me know if you want me to vlog it. I'd probably vlog it, to be honest, because I think it'll be like a really fun experience. But yeah, Pet Sematary is definitely up there with Cujo. It's probably tied between which one I would read next, but my heart just feels like I want to read Cujo next. So that's definitely on my list for 2022. The third Stephen King book that I really want to read but have not yet read is The Colorado Kid. The Colorado Kid is one of the hard case crime books that he has published, so it's one of his like it's not really like a horror supernatural book. It's one of his more just like mystery kind of thriller books. So I think I don't know if I've read all of them, but I definitely read Later and Joyland, and I don't remember how many like hard case crime books there are, but I really enjoyed those a lot, to be honest. Those have been some of like probably my favorite Stephen King books that I've read. So I actually really like his foray into a little bit of something different. I like that they're short, kind of mystery. I like the way that they were written. I love that it's very like character focused, and to me that's just something that I really enjoy. So I definitely want to read The Colorado Kid. Again, I don't know a ton about what it's about. A third person narrative, I guess, talking about an unidentified man who was found in a little area off the coast of Maine. Pretty classic stuff for Stephen King, right up his alley. Takes place in Maine, unidentified body, but definitely sounds like something I would be interested in, and judging by his other hard case crime books, I think that I will like it a lot. I actually don't even know why I haven't read it yet. I just haven't, I guess. So that's something that I really want to read, and it's pretty far up, not just my Stephen King to-be-read list, but it's actually pretty far up my to-be-read list in general. Actually, all of these are, so definitely stuff I want to get around to and I'm really excited about reading. I know this sounds kind of silly because like obviously you love when you're excited for anything, but I love when there's like a lot of books that I'm like really excited to read. That's not always the case. Sometimes like I fall into a slump or there's just not a lot that really super appeals to me, but right now I'm in a phase where there's like a lot of stuff that just looks really inviting and exciting to read, and I love that feeling. I think it definitely, like in the winter time, I just want to read more in general, even though I live in Northern California. Although it's been rainy here, which is kind of fun. We have been in such a long drought, and usually it's rainy this time of year, but I live in like the Bay Area and it's actually kind of been overcast and been raining a little bit, which is definitely invited. It's definitely welcome, but it's so funny because I'm from Minnesota, so like we have like actual weather, like blizzards, lots of snow. And what's funny to me is if it rains like even a tiny bit here, like people don't go outside and everybody like freaks out and like can't drive in like just the tiniest bit of rain. And it's so funny to me. People put on like their puffer jackets and everything, and it's like 55 degrees, so to me that doesn't really feel that cold, but everyone here thinks it's really cold. So I think that's kind of funny, but it has been really overcast, which has been so nice because every time I go to the park with like my dog and my kid and stuff, it's like completely empty because everybody thinks that just because it's an overcast day, it is like you can't even go outside. People here are like, we can't even leave the house, it's 55 and overcast, and I'm like, no, 55 and overcast is like perfect weather for me. But anyway, as I said, I've definitely got a lot of stuff I'm like excited about reading, and I love that feeling. I love the feeling when you've just got something that you're excited for. So definitely in general a lot that I'm excited to read. But back to my Stephen King list. The fourth Stephen King book that I really want to read is called The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, and I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this book, but honestly the premise sounds so interesting to me, so it's definitely up there for like one of the books that I want to read by him. Basically, I think the story is set in like a family hiking trip, and this girl gets lost from her family and they can't find her. Obviously, they go back, they like call the police, and she's in the woods with a limited amount of like food, and I think she does have like a little radio or a Walkman or something. And I don't really know that much beyond that because obviously I don't want to like read a lot about it, so I don't want it to get too spoiled, but just the premise itself sounds really creepy, sounds like something that definitely would interest me, and because I haven't heard a lot about it, like good or bad, I just haven't heard a lot of people talking about it, period, it definitely intrigues me that much more, I feel like, because sometimes I think that the things that Stephen King writes that people just don't really even talk about, they kind of fly under the radar, but those are some of the best things I've read by him. I don't know, maybe that's just me, and maybe that's not even true, but I haven't heard anybody talk about this book, and I'm definitely really excited to read it because, as I said, the premise sounds so creepy, and something about getting lost on a hiking trip is always like such a scary beginning for me. Definitely excited to read that. Also high up on my generalized to be read list. So the last book by Stephen King that I really want to read but haven't read yet is called Bag of Bones. And this is just another kind of classic Stephen King horror. I just have never really gotten around to it. I feel like I definitely have heard people say good things about it, but I just have never really gotten around to it. Hasn't flown up the list too much until I really read about the plot line, and I was like, that sounds actually really interesting. I love when he writes characters who are also authors, so to me that component of this book, it's like about an author who I think has like writer's block, and he's living at a lake house. He kind of recently lost his wife, and I think I don't know if he's like haunted by his wife or other people or something like that. Again, with most things I don't want to read like too much about it to like spoil it too much, although I straight up saw the movie Cujo and still want to read that, so I'd probably still read it. But I love when Stephen King writes characters who are in love with writing or are writers or are authors, because obviously like write what you know, all that stuff, but I just think that he has such a love affair and such like a beautiful relationship with writing. He truly dedicates so much time to it and truly enjoys it. And I love when he writes characters like that because it just feels so honest and true. And to have that character be in something that's like crazy or supernatural or horror kind of grounds it in this nice little bit of reality, if that makes sense. I don't know if that's the right way of saying it, but he definitely writes those characters so well, and I love reading them. It's just such a pleasure to read a character from Stephen King that's like also an author or a writer of some sort. I just am definitely excited to read that one. Let me know below what your Stephen King recommendations are. These are just the next 5 that I want to read, but there's definitely still a lot of books by Stephen King and short stories that I haven't read yet and would like to still read. So let me know what your recommendations are, and if you've read these, what you thought of them, hopefully without spoiling too much. But yeah, I think that's gonna be it for this video. I kind of just wanted to talk about some of the things I'm excited to read by him. Thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, and I will see you later.